Hey guys, welcome back for part 2 of our deep dive on Raiders of the Lost Ark. We went on a bit long last time, so Joseph, who wanted to ever see his family again, needed to cut this in half. So this is the second half, and hope you guys enjoy it. Say hello, Wes.
Hello, Joseph's Weiss. Thanks you. So then we go to Cairo, and we meet Salah for the first time. And this is Indy's great friend. He's the best digger in all of Egypt. And Salah fills him in about the Nazis and that at what progress they're making. And he's trying to tell him about Balak, but he mispronounces his name. Bellic.
Belloc. Belloc,
Bellic. Is that it, Bellic?
I think it's Belloc.
Belloc.
Because he says this Frenchman, Beloche, and then Indy goes, Belloc. Yeah. So
Belloc. Yeah. And you get to meet his family, you get to meet all of his kids, establish their friendships. And then the next scene, they're at the bazaar, right? They're going shopping. Indy's got some dates, she's got on a new outfit. It's almost like a moment to catch.
You get a little bit of a spark of romance.
He's like, "What are you doing with that monkey?" Oh yeah. And there's the monkey was introduced early on, and some people don't like the monkey. Like the monkey's such a great addition to this whole thing.
Who doesn't like the monkey?
There's a lot. Well, I mean, I guess the people I talked to last night, some people were like, I don't like monkeys or whatever, and I was like, what are you talking about? It's like it's a fantastic character.
Okay, first of all, it's a capuchin monkey, who are the most adorable monkeys on the planet. First, how can you hate monkeys? And two, how can you hate capuchins? That's like hating puppies.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like hating babies.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that the monkey was almost like a fully formed bad guy. Like it's almost like he was a part of the plan, which I thought was really cool. And you just accept it. He even saluted Hitler, and did all those things. And he was like spying on him, listening. And he would go tell, all those and then he would go, and I thought that was really cool. And you just bought it. There was not a second like, wait a minute, this fucking monkey doesn't know English. It won't be able to do, that kind of thing.
But again, it's just that little touch of magic.
Just
a little bit different from our world, just slightly.
So then the assassins come after them. And what's cool about this is we just went from a really dark action sequence to a really kind of fun swashbuckling action sequence within this. You got Marion Ravenwood running through with the frying pan, and the guy's chasing her with a knife, and she goes, dong! She knocks him out and drags him in. She goes and hides in the basket, and she's like, Andy! And then we have the most classic, greatest, everybody knows the story. Everybody on the set got really sick, and they trained for 3 days for this one massive sword fight scene with this guy who was like a master of swords. And Indy had bad diarrhea, and he said he couldn't be far from a bathroom. And the way Spielberg tells the story is he showed up, and he always called Spielberg kid, and he goes, all right, kid, you got me for 1 hour. After that, I'm in my trailer. So Indy stood up there getting ready to do this scene they prepared for 3 days, this elaborate fight scene. And as a joke, he just takes out his gun and shoots him. And they said, this is great. We love this. So the way the scene is they went back, and the way the scene is he takes out his gun and he shoots him. And, I feel bad for that actor, but Spielberg made a point. It's like, yeah, he prepared for 3 days. It's going to be a great fight scene. But what is the most famous death scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark? It's that scene. So that's good for him. And then it turns really dark really fast because this fun swashbuckling fight scene, action sequence, and Indy's trying to save her, and she gets on the back of this truck that's full of explosives, and she blows up. Indy thinks that she's dead. And you're like, whoa, because she was in the back of that thing, and then the thing blows up, and then Indy thinks he's dead.
Well, and he thinks it's his fault that the truck exploded and killed her. So it's even darker than that. It's not just that she's dead, but it's his fault.
Oh, yeah. I didn't catch that because he was shooting at it?
Yeah.
Oh.
He shot the driver. That's why the truck crashes. In his head, he killed her.
Well, think about the chain of guilt, because you have the guilt of what he did to her when she was younger. He had the guilt of dragging her into this whole thing, Nazis coming in and almost torturing and killing her. And then he has the guilt of actually killing her. And I like this moment in the movie because it really grounds it. It really brings it down, and you really see that Indy is suffering bad because of this. And he's wanting to drink himself. You know, he's getting drunk. He's with the monkey. He's like cuddling with the monkey because it's the only thing of her he has left. She loved the monkey. And then he goes down and has a conversation with Bullock. If people are playing a drinking game, they can take a shot every time we say how brilliant this thing is written and shot and how brilliant this movie is. But the scene when he sits down with Bullock it's incredible on so many levels. But one of the levels is that Bullock is the shadow of Indy, right? That Indy is just as obsessed and just as passionate about these artifacts that Bullock is. But Bullock is just willing to go that one step further, and Indy is barely over the line. And if he had the right nudge, he could become Bullock like that. And that's part of what the movie is about, is Indy just trying to maintain that line.
Yes, it's a brilliant scene for a bunch of different reasons. I love Belloq's speech about where he's saying to Indy, "You and I are the same. We only give a shit about things that have been buried in the desert for 1,000 years. That's what we care about." And talking about, like, if, his cheap watch would cost like $1 at the bazaar, but if he buries it in the sand for 1,000 years and then somebody digs it up, it'll be priceless. The thing that they share is that hunger for the past, that hunger for antiquity. I think it's a very well done scene, and really does, as you said, Belloq is the shadow of Indy, where Belloq is saying, don't act like you're different than me. This is the thing that you and I care about. And yeah, some people die, but in 1,000 years from now, who cares? 1,000 years from now, the thing that we dug up will matter, not the people who died with us, getting it. And I like that he has a good argument, that he actually is calling Indy out here and legitimately calling him out. And then the other side of it is Indy unable to get over his guilt. He's ready to just die now. He's like, I'm going to take you out. I know that you got a bunch of guys. Doesn't matter. I'll get you.
You want to see God? Yeah. Let's go meet God right now.
Let's go meet him right now. Yeah. I mean, this is the low point of the movie. This is Indy at his lowest, right? And Harrison Ford is selling it. He's selling all the guilt and anger, self-hatred that we sense that Indy lives with, that he has all of these things all the time, and it's just dragging it all out of him. Yeah, and the guy playing Belloq, I can't remember the actor's name, but
Paul Freeman.
It has been in a million things. Like, definitely a guy's been around a lot. Brilliantly playing Belloq and making him likable. Like, when he calls Indy out, I'm kind of agreeing with him in that scene. Like, he's right about you, man. He's right.
And Bullock's, he's not a Nazi. He doesn't care about the Nazis.
No, he doesn't give a fuck about the Nazis.
He actually genuinely cares about Marion. And he's after these things, and he does have a point. The thing is that him and Indy are, there's a fine line, because Indy's working with, his government to do this thing. Indy would never work with the Nazis.
But let's not sugarcoat what both of these guys do. This seems like a good segue into this thing that when you talk about this movie, you have to be aware of. Like, I love this movie. I'm not about to bash the movie or anything, but so this sort of British style of archaeology, which is what the movie is portraying, where you go to other countries, you take their stuff and you bring it back to Britain, right? Was incredibly invasive and predatory. And people like Indy should not be going to South America to steal their treasures and bring them back to be in American museums. You shouldn't be doing that, right? And what Belloq is doing is calling him out for that. So, we're doing the same shit, man. You're going down to South America and stealing shit the same way that I'm going to South America and stealing shit. And they don't spend a lot of time on that topic. They don't, this is not a movie about social consciousness, so they don't need to. But I like that the movie at least is aware of it, and that Indy is not blameless in this stuff, and that the kind of archaeology he does is predatory and invasive. And the movie doesn't give him a free pass. I like that. I think this is a nice scene for that too.
So they meet with the old wise men that can read the medallion and give them what the medallion says. And this is the scene where they poison the dates, and the monkey comes and eats the dates, and Harrison Ford is in. It's great because they poison the dates at the beginning of the scene. And then Harrison Ford, Indy walks by and he grabs the date. And then they sit down.
Just keeps tossing it.
Yeah. And another exposition scene, right? Yep. That you're drawn in and fascinated to watch because you're watching you're terrified that Indy's going to eat the date. And so the guy's giving all the information about the thing and the this and that, and they figure out that the Nazis got it wrong. They're digging in the wrong place, all that stuff. But the whole time, the scene is fascinating to watch because you're like, Indy's about to eat this date. And then he throws it up. It's about to go in his mouth. He catches it, and he's like, bad date. And they look, and the monkey's dead. And it's like, wow, what a great way to end that. And what a great way to do exposition.
Yeah, there's tension that, like, obviously Indy is playing with that date and we know it's poisoned. But at the same time, we also know that he's the star of the movie. He's probably not going to die. But there's more tension than that because Salah's kid brings those dates. His family is in the house. Rewatching that scene, I realized when I watched it the first time, I was never terrified Indy was going to die. I thought one of Salah's kids was going to eat a date and die. Like that was the tension that I had. That like, oh my God, is some of Salah's family going to get killed by these dates? Is that how they're going to find out? So the tension is operating at multiple levels. Even if you're sort of metagaming it, like, well, Indy won't get killed. He's the star of the show. There's other people there that you really hope aren't going to get killed. So that tension is still there, man.
And how great is it that the monkey gets it? Because the monkey was doing bad things, and it's like, it's the whole.
I still felt bad for the monkey.
It's the whole message of the movie. Yeah, the monkey just grew up.
I still felt bad for him. The monkey, he was trained to be evil. He was trained to be evil. It's not his fault.
He didn't make that choice. He was trained.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
Yeah, he was just on the streets of Cairo, and this guy took him in, and it's like
turned him into a fucking Nazi monkey. That's not cool.
It's a David Copperfield story,
Yeah, it's really sad. And by the way, kids out there, if you have a monkey, do not train them to be Nazis.
Please don't.
It's not cool.
Don't do that. It's just not cool.
Don't train your monkey to be a Nazi.
That will be our public statement at their end. It's like, if you have monkeys, don't train them to be Nazis. Don't do that.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
Oh, one thing I want to address before we move on is that when they're about to blow each other away, when he says, let's go see God right now, and Salah's kids come in and save Indy.
And rescue him.
They come in and they swarm him. And earlier on, I used to have an issue. That's the only thing I used to be like, well, wait a minute. Nazis don't care about kids. They have Indiana Jones, like their biggest antagonist, the guy that's basically coming to get the Ark or whatever. What's the issue? But then I'm watching and I'm like, it's in the middle of the day in Cairo and these kids, are you going to and then now it makes perfect sense.
You're not going to gun down 7 kids in the middle of Cairo.
You're not going to gun,
even if you're a Nazi.
You're not going to gun down 7 kids. So when I watched it now, I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And this is such a great way to save them and get him out of the thing because they don't really have, they don't have any options at that point. But then I was like, what kind of a dad is Salah when he's like, I'm going to send you into a bunch of armed Nazis to save Indiana Jones before he gets shot down. But anyway, he gets rescued. So now they get to the map room. Now Indy has the right size staff. They go down there, and this is a little bit of that magic that you're talking about because the whole music, the sequence, the build up, you realize like within this, when the sun comes and hits the beam and it shines down and the thing illuminates, you see it's telling you through the music and there's something more there. There's something spiritual there. Yeah. And it even moves Indy when you see the awe in his face and the glory and like, holy shit, there's something here that is more than what I anticipated.
He's getting sucked into the magic now. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And we as the audience are also sucked into the magic because that moment is awe-inspiring. And it feels kind of like our world, but just a little more magical. Like, just a little more magical than our world.
So he climbs out of the thing and he's walking and you remember all the Nazis are like, water, water, water. And he dumps into a tent to hide. And then he sees Marion and she's all tied up and he thought she was dead. Now, I love this moment because this is showing who Indy is, why they had this reoccurring problem, and this is a choice that he's making earlier on in the film that he's going to eventually have to make a different choice. And he goes in there and he pulls the thing, and I mean, this is just genius. He pulls this thing out of her mouth, and she's like, "Oh God, I'm saved," and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute." He's like, if I save you right now, then they're going to be on.
Then they'll know I'm here.
And I can't go get the thing. And now I know where the thing is. I'm sorry, Marion. You're just going to have to stay here. And he puts the gag back in her mouth and he fucking leaves. Like, what a tricky, risky scene to pull off. And they pull it off like gangbusters. You know, you watch that and the hero's supposed to save the girl. That's what we've been conditioned up to that point. I haven't seen anything like this, but I guess maybe the anti Clint Eastwood movies, the spaghetti westerns, he would do something like this. But that's not. And he puts and he reasons. He's like, look, you've survived for 24 hours. They didn't hurt you, so you should be fine.
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, you're gonna be fine.
You're gonna be fine.
Now, if you were in that situation with Janae, and you go in there, you're taking Janae. You're not worried about You're not worried about the Ark of the Covenant. You're like, we're getting out of here. We're getting out of here now. You know, and so this is a guy that has an unhealthy obsession with these things.
And now we understand why he can only date very young, inexperienced women, why he's not married, why he's living in that house by himself. This is a man who has an unhealthy obsession, and everything else has to take a backseat to it.
Right.
Everything else in his life has to be secondary to this obsession. And it is ultimately the moment that tells you that Belloq's accusation about who and what Indy is right. That Belloq was right about Indy. Because in this moment, you know, it's save this girl that used to be important to you, who's an innocent in all of this, that you thought was dead and felt horrible guilt over. Either save her or continue chasing this archaeological find. What does he choose? Chooses the archaeological find, right? Belloq is right about him, man. When he called him out in the bar, he was right. It is that guy.
And so they start digging in the right place. And this scene then, through cinematography, through music, they really start to bring up the magic and foreshadowing the thing that they're about to experience.
The lightning in the background.
There's that beautiful silhouette. You know what's interesting? Within the notes of the Lawrence Kasdan, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg notes, they say that the outfit has to be iconic. It has to be an iconic silhouette. And within that, when he's pacing back and forth, which is one of the most famous shots from Raiders, it's just his silhouette. You see the hat, you know it's Harrison. And to have this vision, you know, ahead of time. I mean, there's a reason why we're still talking about Star Wars. We're still talking about Indiana Jones. We're still talking about the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones movies. They're still making these movies, these big franchises, because George Lucas and Steven Spielberg know how to tell a fucking story. And we talk about Spielberg, we talked about Harrison, but we didn't talk enough about George Lucas, because George Lucas is really the major catalyst that gets this thing all together. And if you read the Kasdan notes, he has a lot of the story fully formed just in his spitball that's coming out. You know, he knows how to tell a story, and he was the one. I think Kasdan was more focused on characters. Spielberg was really focused on the action and the sequences, and Lucas was really focused on the story and the Ark of the Covenant and what that signified and what that means. So they get inside the Well of Souls, but as they're getting inside the Well of Souls, they're intercutting with Karen Allen having the drinking contest with Belloq. And now we all know the drinking contest that's been properly set up. We know that she's getting drunk. There's a great scene in that documentary where she has to put on that dress, and they couldn't figure out why she would put that dress on. Like, why would this character put that dress on? Because Bullock wanted her to. And she came up with the idea, if I'm using this as a distraction so I can get the knife, that would be the way to do it, which is now it's properly motivated. If she just put the dress on, you'd be like, why the fuck would she put that dress on? But now it's properly motivated. And what's kind of weirdly a little bit sad is that Bullock, you kind of feel a little bad for him because he thinks that she genuinely likes him. And he's like, you know, he's kind of nice to her.
And he genuinely is attracted to her in a way that Indy is not. You know, I mean, she's getting the attention from Belloq, the appreciation of her that she wishes she was getting from Indy and doesn't. and it makes the whole scene sort of fraught. There's also a very clever inside joke in this scene that I only learned about a few weeks ago. I was watching something about this particular scene and the drinking contest in this scene between the two of them. And because somebody was trying to figure out what they were drinking. And at one point he says, "It's my family label," but it's clearly not wine, right? So what is it? And this person did this deep dive trying to figure out what it actually was. And in the course of doing that, I don't remember what the actual alcohol is, but they did figure that out, what the actual alcohol is. And it's not wine. It's much stronger than wine. But they also, in the course of doing that, figured out that the bottle that he's holding, the label on it, actually, if you translate, actually is family label. Is the text. So when he says, "It's my family label," he may not be saying it's stuff that his family makes. He may be saying it's my bottle of family label booze, because that's what the label.
Where did
is.
you find this?
So there's a YouTube channel that just does like cocktails and stuff, and sometimes we'll do like a deep dive on like the drinks that are shown in a particular movie. And it was that channel was doing a deep dive on this scene, trying to figure out what the drink involved was. So anyway, so there's this really weird hidden joke in this scene when he says, label. "It's my family label."
That's hilarious.
And the bottle is literally called family label. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, he's French, and it's weird that it's not wine, but yeah, it's, I thought it was tequila. So she gets the knife. Tot comes back, and you think he's there to torture her. Now, I don't know. This gag is very risky. When he comes in and he pull.
Oh, with the hanger?
Yeah. When he does the hanger and he does like this and he puts it and he throws it over and they throw the jacket on it. It is hilarious, and it worked last night with an audience. They're watching. They all laugh. People that haven't seen the movie before. Yep. It really connected. And if you pitched that idea, if I was like, Ty, in this scene, if he comes and he throws this thing and he turns it to a hanger and he throws it over and puts it on, you would be like, what? No, that's not going to, but for whatever reason, it just works.
No. I think I would like that idea. I'll tell you who wouldn't is Narain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Narain hated anything that he saw as a gag.
Yeah.
He hated.
Yeah.
So he would see that as a gag. He'd be like, "Oh, that's stupid. It's just a gag." And that's sort of his screenwriting, storytelling sort of prejudice, I think. We all have them. So I'm not saying that, like he's unique in that. That is not my prejudice. I love a well-executed gag. So I think I would have been okay with it.
Mm-hmm. So Indy and I keep forgetting Sala, they open up the thing and then it blows out that smoke. So you feel like the air has been compressed in there for centuries. They move it out. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And at how brilliant. And then you have the lightning and the dragon and he goes, "Ah!" And he gets scared and he goes the thing. But how brilliant is to have the floor full of snakes? Why is the ground moving? And Indy's like, "Snakes. Why does it got to be snakes?" And it's just covered in snakes, which has been set up because he hates snakes.
Yep.
And it's just visually, it's so creepy. And in those days, like I know more about snakes now, but then I didn't know anything about snakes. So you didn't know. You just thought, you saw cobras. You're like, "Oh my God, cobras! Like everybody's gonna die." But Indy faces that fear. They go down. They get the Ark of the Covenant, which is pretty soon within the movie to get the Ark of the Covenant. Because I'm gonna put a bookmark here to make my point that I'm going to make at the end of the film, and just really because the film is not really about the Ark of the Covenant, but because they find it so soon, and the movie continues. What the movie is about is Indy going from non-belief to belief. So they get the Ark of the Covenant, and they come out, and God damn it, Balak has got him again, man. It's like, and what's really great about this, Ty? If you really, it's like that. Do you ever see that Spy versus Spy, that like animated thing where like one spy will get the head of it? Yeah. It's that.
Well, yeah, it's from Mad Magazine. I used to read Mad Magazine.
Oh, okay. So is that thing
Spy versus Spy is started out there.
So each scene or sequence, there's a reversal. Indy gets it. He gets the heads up. Bullock comes and he gets it. Then he gets the heads up and gets it. And so you're constantly like on the edge of your seat, like having this thing happen. So they throw her into the Well of Souls, and I want to be respectful of Joseph's time, so we'll try to get faster through these scenes. Throw her through the Well of Souls. She's stuck there with Indy. She's rightly pissed at first. She's like, "You motherfucker! You left me in there to die. Come get this fucking..." And if she wasn't surrounded by snakes and he didn't save her, he would be fucked in that. Like, she would never speak to him again. So ultimately, he gets in. He knocks that big dragon over, knocks a hole in the wall. He figures it out. But what a scary thing to be trapped at the bottom of a dark place called the Well of Souls that hasn't had fresh air in centuries, and you're trapped under with a sea of snakes. Like, I mean, that's just...
Well, and I do like the part of the clue being that there are so many snakes in there because they have to be coming from somewhere. Right?
Yeah.
So there has to be another way in because otherwise there wouldn't be any snakes.
And the snakes are ultimately what gets them out. Because Indy can see that they're coming where they're coming from through the wall.
Yep.
But why are they snakes just pouring into the, like, what is in the Well of Souls that is attractive to other
power of God?
The power of God.
Here we go. I mean, it's another moment of this world is just a little magical. There's no reason for snakes to be in there, but there's a million.
And
snakes.
that's the genius of Spielberg, because if somebody pitched the idea to you, hey, we're gonna have this whole floor as snakes, you'd be like, why would there be snakes in there? Where would the snakes come from? Why would they come to this place, right? But there's certain things that you push just a little and you will accept, and it magnifies the story. But if you go too far, you're like, this is bullshit. Or if you go too little, it's like, this is boring. So Spielberg is so good at like walking that line of like creating this adventure situation where you just buy it and you're into it.
Yep.
They end up breaking out, Indy figures out how to knock over that big statue. They break out the wall. And this brings us to one of my favorite fight scenes in movie history when he fights the big German. What makes this fight scene so great is that Indy's face, every time he gets, like when he first gets, so Indy hauls off and hits, he points to the ground, guy looks, kicks him in the balls, and he hits him in the face. And that's normally, when he does that, he usually knocks the guy, and all the moves and everything, he's like, and knocks the guy out. And then he looks, the guy is not affected, and then he fucking hits him, and Indy's legs kind of wobble, and he just falls to his butt, and he has this complete surprise of like, what just fucking hit me? And then he had this surprise like, I do not want to fight this guy. It's him like just not wanting to fight this guy, and the guy chasing him around, and he's throwing everything he can at him, and the guy's just beating the shit out of him. I love that scene.
Yeah, well, and the sequence, I mean, the fight is a great fight. And again, it shows that Indy's not a Superman, right? He's not Schwarzenegger. He doesn't automatically win every fight. This is what drives me nuts about modern action stars. You read this ridiculous stuff like, Vin Diesel's contract. He's not allowed to lose a fight in any movie he does. That's in the contract. That's so ridiculous, right? I don't know if that's true or not, but that idea of that is ridiculous. That your stardom depends on your invulnerability. Then you see a scene like this, arguably one of the biggest movie stars in the history of cinema, getting the shit kicked out of him. And it's part of what makes it great. It's part of what makes him great, right? That he's not a robot. He's not a Superman. He doesn't just automatically win. And that dude he's fighting is a beast. You expect that dude to whoop some ass, right? I mean, look at the size of him, right? He's a bear. So when he punches him and Indy goes down, one, you're like, yes, that's realistic. That's what would happen. And two, now we have stakes again. Indy's not invulnerable. He doesn't automatically win every fight. He's not immune to harm. And this dude is big enough and scary enough to kick his ass. And the second thing this scene does is it sets up the rest of the movie, because the rest of the movie is a chase scene. And when they see the plane and he says, oh, they're going to fly the Ark out, I'm going to have to steal that plane so it doesn't get away. In the course of that fight, the plane is destroyed. And that forces the Nazis to put the Ark on trucks. And the rest of the movie is the chase scene to get those trucks, follow where the Ark is going, and ultimately to where it ends up. It's just a chase from there on out. And that fight at the airplane is what starts the chase. So yeah, great scene in multiple ways.
Would you say the start of the third act is here, or the start of the third act is when they're left in the bottom of the Well of Souls?
No, I think the start of the third act is the destruction of the airplane and moving the Ark to the trucks.
Right.
For me, that's the start of the third act.
Would you say the start of the first act is when he talks to Brody and he leaves for Nepal, or when she says, "I'm your goddamn partner," and they leave from there?
No, I so for the way it breaks down for me, and this is just how I would think of it, is the first act is introduce Indiana Jones, introduce the idea of the quest, right? And the quest is go to Nepal, get the thing, use it to find the Ark of the Covenant. The second act is Indy loses. Indy gets to Egypt, Marion dies, he loses all this stuff. They take the Ark away from him. He's at his lowest point, one, because he thought Marion was dead, and two, because he's now trapped in the Well of Souls, and he's lost the Ark. They've taken it from him. So that's that middle, the hero loses everything moment. The third act is he sees where the Ark is going. They put it on the trucks. He blows the plane up. They put it on the trucks, and he recommits to the quest. He recommits. He says, I know where the Ark is going. I know it's on trucks now. I'm going to follow it and get it back. And the entire third act is that pursuit of it. To me, that's how the movie breaks down.
And the fifth sequence set piece in the movie, the truck scene, the greatest action chase stunt of all time. Of all
it's pretty
fucking
great.
Time. And the reason that this is so thrilling and so compelling and it holds up so much is that there is no CGI. There are people under the fucking car, right? Under the truck. They're climbing on top of the truck. And I don't know what this movie invented or what it's paying an homage to, but like the jumping through the window and kicking them out of the other side of the car and then taking over the car. This is the first time I remember seeing that kind of stuff, and I know that like it probably is very similar, like back in the Western stunts where they would hop on and kick you off the horse or the wagon or things like that. But there's so many fantastic moments and editing, like the editing of this there's so many little stories that are happening. For instance, when Indy gets shot in the arm, and the guy starts punching it on his bullet. And when his hand pulls back, his hand is getting bloody from hitting him in his thing. He throws Indy through the windshield. Indy grabs on. He falls underneath the car, and he drags himself underneath the car, spins around, pulls himself back up. Fantastic stunt. Goes back into the front seat, and the guy's like, you're fucking still here. Hits him, bangs his head on the dash, throws him out. Now he's back in the place that Indy was. So now you get a laugh. Yep. Everybody recognized that. It's really funny, but it's really dangerous. But he doesn't get through like Indy does, and it fucking runs him over. He takes the art, runs Belloc off the road. So satisfying, so thrilling. When that's over, you're just like, ooh. And that dude in the truck, like the big bald guy that beats the shit out of Indy, that dude is a badass. Yeah. Like when he and Indy are fighting for the truck, that dude feels like he is Indy's equal or better. Mm-hmm. Like he's tough, he's strong. All the shit that like so there's levels of like a video game. In this kind of serial thing, there's levels of bad guys. There's the cannon fodder who Indy can knock out with one punch. Right? He throws him off the truck, or he punches him once and they fall out of it. And then there's next level dudes, like the big bald guy at the plane, or this dude. This dude, you can't knock him out of the truck in one shot. He's fighting back. He shoots him in the arm. He's like you said, he's punching the shit out of his wound. Every time Indy tries the moves that worked on everybody else, they just don't work on this guy. And I feel like a movie like this has to have both. You got to have cannon fodder because it's fun to watch Indy kick ass, right? We like watching him kick ass. We like watching him chuck guys off the truck. So you got to have those guys. But if everybody is that, then Indy never feels like he's under threat. There's no stakes. He's just taking out cannon fodder. You need these next level guys who Indy tries the one shot move on, and the dude knows, no, that ain't working on me, bro. And then now we got to fight, right? The movie does such a great job of giving us both kinds of bad guys all the way through. if you look at, like we always talk about this all the time, fight consistency. And within this world, Indy has fantastic fight consistency. Because if you're an average man, Indy's probably going to get the better of you. And then if you have the guy in the bus, you know, that's your equal. So you're going to give as much as you get. And it's going to be going back and forth and who's going to win. And then you got the Germans that live in this world that are better than Indy. And Indy has to use his intelligence to be able to win. Now we get to the boat. Oh, and you know, one of the things too, when I watched it, I was always a little bit like, how does Indy steal this truck, fly in, and Salah is waiting on him, and you know, he flies in, the door shut, and they put a little restaurant in front of it, and he gets away. And I was like, how would he know? But they covered that when I go back and watch now. He talks to Salah and says, I'm going to go get the Ark. So it makes perfect sense that he would be preparing for Indy to come through and giving him a place to hide. So that they worked that out. I mean, this movie's genius. There's no weak spot within that. So now they're on the boat. And this goes back to the scene you were talking about in the beginning. This is really great. You know, and now they have a moment to really, they've been through so much together. Obviously, their feelings for each other have been reawakened. And you're ready for this intimate moment. And most movies would go with like, they start kissing and then you fade out, right? But he is showing the brunt of all the bullshit that he's been through this whole thing. And he's like, oh, he's trying to take his shirt off, and she's trying to dab him, and he's like, ow, oh, ow, and she's like, where the fuck, where? And he's going through this whole thing, and he ad-libbed, or Harrison Ford has a line in here that he ad-libbed when she says, you know, you're not the man I used to know, and he goes, it's not the years, honey, it's the miles. You know, and that was the mileage. It's not the years, honey, it's the mileage. That was Harrison Ford's line. So, you know, he does the whole here in his elbow. Where doesn't it hurt? Here. And then she kisses it here. And then she kisses it. And he goes here. And she kisses it. And then he goes here. And then she kisses it. And it's kind of a fun, little charming, fun scene. And then he passes out, which is just a great. And I forgot that one moment when he's looking in the mirror and he's all beat up and everything. He's all like barely taking his shirt off, and then she flips the mirror and he goes,
she flips the mirror,
and you hear the camera pan goes back out, and you see the ship from the outside, and you hear his screen go through the whole thing. Fantastic.
I would also like to give a quick little shout out to the actor who's playing Captain Katanga.
Oh yeah,
love that actor. Like what an amazing voice that guy has, right? Like, and you expect him to be a bad guy. Like he's like a pirate, and he's, you know, Indy immediately isn't sure if he's a good guy or whatever, and then just turns out to be a complete hero. You know, in the later part of the boat sequence. So a little shout out to Captain Katanga, good guy. I'd sail with that guy.
Well, you know what's interesting? They gave him a bad guy introduction. So when
they did, they gave him the bad guy introduction. Yep.
When there's that long shot where Indy and Marion and Sal's like, this is, you know, Captain, and then he lights a cigarette, and you see it in his face, and he's smoking. And it lights up his face or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, this might be a bad guy. Then you go on, you don't know if you can trust him or not trust him, and it turns out he's a really solid guy, and you get a sense
he's a good guy.
And you get a sense that he does not like the Nazis and what they're doing there. That one Nazi calls him a savage, you know, and he's like, I killed Indy, you know, and then so now you just love the guy because he's taken up for Indy, and he doesn't. He's risking his life for Indy, and then he tries to get the girl. He tries to save the girl. And the Nazis come. So the Nazis come, and then they get it's that give and take. So now Harrison got the jump on him, and now they get it back because they have a German U-boat that chases them down. A great sub, by the way. It's like a really realistic, crazy looking sub there.
Do you know what that is from, though?
A TV show.
No, they borrowed it from the movie Das Boot.
Oh, that's the sub from Das Boot.
They had an agreement that they could only use it in very specific ways. to get the approval to get it.
Wow.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And I would like to say there's one complaint people make about this movie that always pisses me off, where they say, well, why didn't he drown when the sub went underwater? And let me give you a little historical background for people who say that. This was World War II era diesel subs. They only submerged when they were attacking with torpedoes. The rest of the time, they were submergible boats. They were not like, modern submarines. They go underwater and they stay underwater for 6 months. That is not how these subs worked. They had very limited battery power. Running the engines off the snorkel was not good for the boat. You didn't want to do it very often. So because they were not torpedoing anyone, the boat would have kept its sail, which is the part that sticks up out of the submarine, out of the water for the rest of the journey so they could run the sub on the diesel engines. That is why Indy doesn't drown. So we're tired of people saying that. That is how submarines worked back then. Please stop with that complaint.
Great note, Di. Really smart, great note. In the documentary, they go into this, and they did have within the vision boards. By the way, Spielberg storyboarded this whole movie, every shot, everything. Within the storyboards, they were going to have a sequence of him holding on to that thing, and then like just kind of a passage of time, like one where him's like trying to stay awake, almost sleeping or whatever, but riding it there to demonstrate that. But then they're like, we don't need that. So now they just cut to the thing because there's ties out there that are keeping truth, justice, and the American way down for everybody.
Hey, learn a little bit about World War II submarine technology, motherfuckers.
And so now they get to this fantastic German port, which was actually a real German port that still had all the Nazi paraphernalia and all that stuff that they used. And they get in there, and then, there's that classic, beating a guy up, taking his outfit. But they go one step further. How many times have we seen, somebody grab somebody, throw them back, beat them up? Now they have the outfit. We've seen that so many times, right? We've seen it in Star Wars. We've seen it. But they made it a little bit funnier where they took the guy, beats him up, puts it on, and the guy's too small. And he's like he's like, fuck. And he tries, and then a German officer comes over and is like, get up, you slacker. You didn't shave. You didn't do this. Your thing doesn't fit to that. And boom. And he fucking hits him in the gut. Guy goes down. Hits him again. The hat comes, he catches it, and then he puts it on. It's like, way to make something that we've seen a million times so much more interesting. And then he goes and bumps into Bullock.
Yeah, and it's the this guy's stuff is too small scene before Die Hard came out.
Before Die Hard. So then they have their they talk about Bullock wants to test out the Ark before he takes it to the Fuhrer. And the one guy says, I don't know about this Jewish tradition. And he says, what do you want to
I'm uncomfortable with this Jewish ritual.
Jewish ritual. Yeah. And he's like, what do you want to take it to you want to take it to the Fuhrer without testing it out, you fool? But Bullock really doesn't care about the Fuhrer. He wants to, he
wants to see what's in there,
and
man.
What's interesting is Bullock is a believer. He's into this thing. He's in this outfit and the ceremony. He thinks he's going to see the power of God, which he does.
When I watch this, I think he thinks he's going to get to control it.
Oh,
because the thing Belloc is wearing in this scene is a high priest's outfit, a Jewish high priest's outfit. So if you know much about how the Ark was actually used in the Old Testament, it was only interacted with like once. I think it's like once a year. Maybe it was more than, maybe it was like twice a year, but it was almost never interacted with. It was the temple was divided into a holy and a most holy. So the holy was only specific priests could go into the holy. It was considered you were almost in the presence of God. Very strict rules about it. Then the most holy was where the Ark sat, and the only person who could go into the most holy was the high priest. He was the only one, and it was very specific on and when you did that and what the ritual was and all that stuff. It's really specifically laid out, and it was taken very seriously by the Israelites of the time. So when Belloc puts on the high priest uniform, which is that thing that has like the 12 stones that represent the 12 tribes of Israel on the breastplate and the hat and all that stuff, he is setting himself up as the guy who is allowed to go into the most holy.
How do you know about the 12
The
stones
only-
of Israel?
Because I I was an ordained minister at 15, dude. I've done a lot of Bible study.
I always forget that. That is the interesting story of Ty's biography. That there was this religious moment. And there's nobody that I can picture less. You
less as a minister.
Yeah, you have rebelled full circle. Like,
I made a few life changes.
yeah.
But the point is that he's wearing the outfit of the only person who was ever allowed to interact with the Ark of the Covenant. The only person who's allowed to do that. He's wearing that outfit. I don't know what he thinks the reaction from the Ark is going to be, but he definitely is setting himself up to be the only person who survives it or who gets the power of it, right? Because he's putting himself in that position. Now, we'll get to this. It doesn't work out the way he had hoped it would, but he's going full tilt. He's going full tilt on the Israelite ritual of the Ark by wearing the high priest uniform. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely, like you said, you think he's a believer. He's definitely acting like he's a believer here.
And then Indy gets the rocket-propelled grenade launcher, stops him in their tracks. Fun fact, that is the canyon that they shoot R2-D2. The Jawas shoot R2-D2 in Star Wars. Same canyon.
Oh,
that
no
they
shit.
used. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he, holds up the thing. He's like, if give me the girl or I'm going to destroy the Ark. But Balak knows that Indy would never destroy the Ark. And so he says, everybody get away, get away. And it was pretty intense. He gets starts shooting and he gets everybody away. And he goes, go ahead, Indy, you win. We lose. Go ahead. And Indy can't do it. And he knows he can't do it. So
well, and Belloc knows this because he knows Indy has already made this choice once before. When he knows that clearly Indy knew that Marion was with the Nazis, and instead of choosing to save her, he chose to dig up the Ark and try to take that instead. So Indy's already made this choice. So when Indy's like, I'll blow the Ark up, Belloc's like, dude, why do you keep fronting? Like, you keep making the same choice over and over again. You keep abandoning the girl to get the Ark. What makes you think, we think it's different now? And again, Belloc is right, man. He's calling Indy out and he's fucking right again. Like, I know Belloc is the bad guy of the story, but he's a great foil for Indy here because he is so calling Indy on his bullshit every single time, and he keeps being right.
And he's one step ahead of him.
Yeah. Well, and I think in many ways he understands Indiana Jones at a level that Indiana Jones is uncomfortable with because he doesn't want to believe that Belloc is right. He doesn't want to believe that he's that guy. But Belloc is right. He is that guy. Yeah. And again, this is just good storytelling. This is good story crafting that Belloc isn't like this mustache twirling villain of the piece. He's the guy who, like you said, is the shadow of Indy. He wants the exact same things Indy does. He's just willing to cross one extra line that Indy isn't willing to cross. That's the only difference between the two of them.
And a good thing is Tot is the mustache twirling bad guy. But
yes,
you can have Tot because you got somebody as interesting as Belloc that is there.
Yes.
You can't do it with only Tot. Tot is a flavor. He's not the meal. He's it.
No, Tot is the living embodiment of Nazi evil.
Yeah. Right.
The Nazis are the bad guys. He is the representative of Hitler. He's the guy who's like reminding you, if the Nazis get this, will be it bad because the Nazis are fucking terrible. They're the villains of the world.
Yeah.
And so he's allowed to be a mustache twirling villain because the Nazis are mustache twirling villains.
Yeah.
Right. And in this story.
Right. And with Belloc, you can go into the mustache twirling because you got such a real fascinating antagonist. Now we get to the ceremony. This is why I love this ceremony and why some people make a boneheaded argument. But what I love so much about this ceremony is we just went through one breathtaking action sequence, set piece after set piece after set piece.
Yep.
And at the end, Indy is tied up and he is helpless. And this is by design, because this is his completion from non-belief to belief, whereas his only way to escape with Marion is to close your eyes, to believe in the thing and keep your eyes closed within this. And all these, this evil that's trying to control this power, to control the power of God. It's like building the Tower of Babel. They get melted. Their heads gets exploded. They get like this really satisfying, just terrible death. And, with Bullock, he has this obsessive.
Which, by the way, that death is pulled directly from Scripture. I believe it's either in Isaiah or Jeremiah. I can't remember which one it's in. It's one of those two, where it is describing how God would strike down the enemies that had disrespected him, and it talks about this, that their flesh would melt from their faces, that their eyes and tongues would melt in their mouths. That it is a scripture in the Bible that absolutely describes the exact thing that is happening to those dudes when they look into the ark.
Oh,
so
wow.
Somebody in the writing staff, Kasdan or somebody, knew that scripture and pulled that exact description.
That's Lucas. Lucas was the one that knew. He was the Ark of the Covenant historian on the thing.
Mm.
Wait, so that's interesting. So it was like straight out of it's biblical what happened to these.
Yeah, if you read that scripture, what it describes happening to these enemies of God is what we see happening on screen in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely pulled right out of the Bible.
And I did not like the spirits and all that stuff. That still works. And what I love is like how specific the deaths were. And Bullock had a spirit that rolled up on him that was beautiful. And he's obviously he loves.
It's an angel.
It's an angel, and he loves beautiful women. This angel rose up on him, had the beautiful face, and he was like, "It's so beautiful." When Marion got through in the pit, he said, it's a shame that something such a waste of something so beautiful, So it has this obsession with this thing, and so it shows up, and then it turns into a skeleton, and it has this fantastic head explosion. That's like, what's the Cronenberg movie?
Scanners.
Scanners. It's like
Scanners.
It's up there with the Scanners head explosion, And I thought this movie was made 40 years ago. And I didn't have any issue with the spirits and the faces melt. I thought it was done really well, really fun, really entertaining, really interesting. And God damn it, I love that Indy was tied up. There was no him being the hero. No, the only way that he was going to escape.
He's not going to punch his way out of this.
Yes, he's not going to punch his way out of it. What's going to bring him out of that is him conquering that flaw, right? And that is what saves him and Marion. And as a consequence of doing that, realizing that there is this counter argument to Bullock saying all that matters are the things, right? What matters is we bury a watch in the sand. 1,000 years from now, it's going to be priceless. That's what matters. We are worthless. The thing is history. We are not history. And then what we really learn is that no, those things are worthless. That people are what matter. And if people matter, his relationship to Marion is what matters. And that's more important than the thing.
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant is the friends we made along the way. I agree with you. And I think I want to make the point even more that Indy's victory in this story is, as you said, his move from disbelief to belief. And as you said, his great superpower is his intelligence, his cleverness, and he clearly is familiar with the story, he's familiar with the history. He has that book at the beginning of the movie. He shows the book with the picture of the ark and all that. So he knows the history of the ark very well, and he knows what the Bible says about the ark. So he would know you're not supposed to look into the ark unless you're the high priest of the priesthood of Levi. Unless you're the high priest of the tribe of Levi, you're not allowed to look in there. He knows that. It was hidden by two separate curtains in the temple. It was hidden in the most holy. Only the priest could ever go in there. So when they start to open it and he goes, close your eyes, what he's saying is, I'm starting to believe, and I know what happens to people who disrespect this thing. And the only way to respect it is to not look into it because only the high priest is allowed to do that. So it's his knowledge, his intelligence and knowledge combined with this growing belief that maybe this stuff is all true is what allows him to survive. That's his ultimate victory there.
And that takes us to the last scene where he's with the CIA guys, and he's like,
Wasn't that called the OSI back then?
I think it was just Army Intelligence.
Army Intelligence. Yeah. Okay.
I think it was just Army Intelligence. Yeah. So he's back with those guys, and they're sitting around the table. And he's like, "What the fuck are you guys gonna do?" And now he knows how powerful and dangerous this thing is, and he's really concerned with it. It's like the atom bomb, right? And then Brody's there, and they're having this conversation, like, "What are we gonna do with this thing?" And like, don't worry about it. We got our top guys on it. And Indy's like, who? Because Indy and Brody,
men,
yeah, top men. And he's so goddamn pissed off, and he runs out there, and he's like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't, they're idiots. And then Marion's like, but you still got me. You still got me.
Yep.
And that's what the movie was about. And so what drives me crazy is the argument that Indy's interchangeable with the plot. He didn't really do anything with the plot. That if Indy didn't exist, they would find the Ark, they would open the Ark, and it would melt them. Well,
they would never find the Ark if he didn't exist.
First of all, even if you go by those rules, they would never find the Ark. They wouldn't have found the medallion, they do. And if they did, I mean, maybe let's say that they did find the medallion, and let's say that they somehow figured it out and they did it in the right place, or let's say they found the Ark. The movie is not really about that. It's not about the Ark of the Covenant. It's about Indy's growth, and that's what the movie is. And that same movie would not exist without Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, so I think the whole thing of Indy doesn't change what ultimately happens to the Ark. That argument, there is some justification for that. But as you said, the story isn't about where the Ark ends up. The story is about a guy, as you said, changing, learning what he has done wrong with his life, and finding the mystery and the magic again. That finding I'm struggling to find the words here, which, it's great when you're a writer and you can't think of words, but starts out with no, like he like you said, he didn't care about the superstition in the jungle. When Brody says, "Be careful, the Ark is powerful," and he's like, "Don't scare me with superstitions." He's the idea that he's sleeping with his students, that he had once slept with Marion and then dumped her. He's not a good guy, right? He's a capable guy, and he's a guy who has had success doing this thing that ultimately isn't a good thing. Like I said, it's very invasive to go to other countries and steal their treasures. And by the end of this movie, he's on a path to back being a good guy again. He's back with Marion. He's trying to help these people understand what it is that they have. He's found some of his belief again, found some of his acceptance of the magic of the world that he lives in again. He's a very different guy at the end of this story than he is at the beginning of this story.
Well, that is Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the greatest movies ever made. You could probably guess or tell that Ty and I really love that movie. And somehow I'd like to incorporate the links to that documentary. It's fascinating to watch. It's really well done. And then also the Lauren Kasdan notes. And there's some weird shit in those notes, which is cool because, it's kind of like you feel like you're kind of fly on the wall listening to how people are really, that these three geniuses, Lawrence Kasdan, Steven Spielberg, and George Lucas, that are kind of spitballing this story. I mean, I think there was even conversation of Indy being in love with Marion when she was 11 or something like that. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like they're just throwing out ideas, and it's like, what if, he goes, well, what if she was this and that? And then it's like, well, that would make her 11. And like, yeah, that wouldn't work. So then,
and I would say that this is George Lucas's best period, because this is when George Lucas was still a collaborator. Because I think Lucas is a great collaborator with other people, because he's the guy who has like a million ideas a minute. Some of them are brilliant. Some of them are crazy. And you need other people in the room, other grownups in the room going, yeah, that one's great, George. Let's not do this other crazy shit over here. And at a certain point, Lucas got too much power, and then nobody could argue with him anymore. And I think that's when he's started to fail as a storyteller for me personally, is he needs these guys. He needs the Kasdan in the room. He needs Spielberg in the room. He needs people who can say no to him. And then his crazy constant stream of crazy ideas can turn into something great, because he's got other people there sort of guiding the story, guiding it to a place that makes sense. And so this was the period, I think, where Lucas was most productive, did his best work. He needs these people. He needs these people to help him and sort of make what he does work. Because I feel like the minute he didn't have that help anymore, his work wasn't as good. So this is Spielberg just entering the height of his power, Lucas at the peak of his creative powers, Kasdan, brilliant screenwriter, everybody just peaking at the right time to make a magical thing.
Yeah, Lucas has been saying that he wants to. He's gonna hand off Star Wars so he can go make his like arty indie. When are those movies coming? How long has he been working on those movies? Yeah, like when are we going to see those?
Now
things?
those I would be interested to see.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah,
I mean, were you a what is it, STX
or THX?
THX. Were you? Yeah. Did you like that movie?
It's a little too artsy for me, but I liked the ambition of it. I liked what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing is I think Lucas is an idea machine, and you just got to have somebody catching the ideas flying out of his head and taking the bad ones and throwing them in the bin and taking the good ones and putting them in the pile. And as long as you have that kind of working relationship, he comes, no one would argue this is not an imaginative guy.
Yeah.
He's got an astonishing imagination. He just needs somebody there to help guide it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. This was a great time. Thank you, Ty. Like and subscribe, and let you know and let us know what you think about us doing these deep dives on these movies, because we'll be doing a little more of these as the time goes on.
Yeah, and if you could take a moment, give us a like and a subscribe, that would be great. Every time somebody doesn't like and subscribe to our videos, Wes gets another genital polyp. So
it's kind of like in It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings and Angel gets his wings, I get a genital polyp if you don't like and subscribe.
So help him out. We don't want to do that to his wife.
Thank you guys. What happens if they do like and subscribe? What do we get?
Then
there?
you lose one of the polyps. It goes away.
Right. So you got a lot of work to do through my military years. All right. All right. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.
Welcome back to Tying That Guy.